Funny how, for all you've done to your bodies, it's still real to me, damn it! I mean, funny how.
There you go, boys. A new opening.
That's good stuff right there, buddy.
Hey, let's have it one more
Funny
time.
how, for all you've done to your bodies, it's still real to me, damn it! I mean,
The name of the show is It's Still Real to Me, damn it. To that gentleman right there that named our show, thank you, whoever you are. The dog wants to be on the air. Here. There you go. That's fucking you. Nobody wants to see you. This ain't about the dog there. Welcome to It's Still Real to Me. WCW, NWA Factions tonight. Going to do 10. We're a little late getting started tonight. I had another podcast jump right in. But let's go ahead and get started tonight. Let's first make welcome our guest from beautiful Sylvania, Alabama, where you don't have to have an outhouse, an in-house, or hot one and running. Howie Cheney, what do you got, buddy?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Yo.
You ready
Howie.
for this tonight, Howie?
We're ready, man.
Are you awake is the question.
Usually when that little hand hits around 5, I'm out, but
We do know it's past your bedtime.
way past the bedtime.
That's what you need right now.
Yeah.
All right, on the right, from Coca-Cola bottling, with his email that's not working, on the left, over there. His name is the shooter, Jeremy Johnson, the world heavyweight champion. Go ahead.
Yeah, boy, coming to you live from Monroe, Louisiana. I've been on the road.
Louisiana.
Yep, so I'm down here in Louisiana. So I headed back home tomorrow. Scheduled to go back to Louisiana on Monday. I find that I blend no matter where I'm at, as long as I don't say roll tide.
That's probably best.
Yeah.
Best. Well, I'm going to turn the mic over to our sleepy but illustrious host of the show, Mr. Howie Cheney.
All right, guys, quick question. A very brief comment on WrestleMania. Randy.
Love night one. Thought it was great. Don't know why the WWE chose to kill Cody Rhodes' character off, because basically in Sunday and Monday night, Cody Rhodes is of no value anymore to the WWE.
Come on now. I disagree with that. I believe I was like you. However, after the fact, I think Cody's going to come out and he's going to be bigger later on. Extend that chase a little bit longer.
I'm all about extending the chase, except when the chase includes getting your face shoved through the mat by Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a surprise to me.
Yeah,
it really was.
I think we would all agree, though, Jeremy, night one of WrestleMania may be the best one-night version of WrestleMania that they've been to 2 nights.
I think we all agreed that it was going to be great, and I think both nights were fantastic. Charlotte Rhea, that was a dang good match, despite what Ric Flair says. Obviously, he's going to say it's a great match. I think, aside from his opinion, that was a dang good match, and so was everything else on the card, including Rey Mysterio taking his belt off and whipping Dominic. That owned me. I'm not going to lie.
You know what my theory is? Triple H booked Saturday night and Vince booked Sunday. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
That's the rumor.
Yeah.
One more quick question. When we do this podcast again next year, talk about top 10 WrestleMania matches, will any of them be on there from this past weekend?
Absolutely.
Just a simple yes or no. Don't go into who it was. Just yes or no. Randy?
Absolutely.
Jeremy?
I'm going to say yes also.
Okay, good deal. All right, coming from Chattanooga, Tennessee is the QB1 with his top 10 factions of the WCW/NWA. And coming from some great stories that Jim Cornette talks about from being in Louisiana. Mr. Double J, Jeremy Johnson. So, Jeremy, do you have your number 10?
I do, look, I'm going to tell you, I've let you guys down. I had to go by what instead of digging around, I went by what I remember. I didn't come up with 10. However, I will start with this one because it's prominent to me. And I will say, do you remember Paul Jones' Army?
That's a good one.
Okay. Paul Jones, look, I really wasn't a fan of Paul Jones, but I'm going to tell you, I love Shaska Watley. Shaska Watley, Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez. I think you threw in there, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, Howie or Randall, the Barbarian,
Yeah.
and then maybe even throw in at one point. Am I wrong in saying Rick Rude at some point?
I don't know.
But
I remember.
though, but Shaska Watley to me, which for those of you that've been around a while, Pistol Pez Watley, very underrated. I love Shaska Watley promos.
All for the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga.
Yeah, all I remember is they wanted the Boogie Woogie Man Jimmy Valiant's hair, and I remember that feud very well. I remember Paul Jones, and I was a young kid at that point, but I thought that was pretty great. Put it aside from another faction that I will name later.
All right.
What say you, Randall?
I did a little more work. I have pictures tonight. At
Oh
number 10,
gosh!
the very last faction in the WCW.
Oh my!
I think it was their attempt to save the WCW. They took a bunch of young talent and threw them together. You had Jim Drack, Sean O'Hara, uh, Johnny the Bull Cerrone, Average Mike Sanders. One guy I remember his name was Reno. And that was the last faction of kind of the Vince Russo, Eric Bischoff's era. And they had a great run. The Natural Born Thrillers.
All right now.
All right.
I don't even remember them, guys. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't remember them. WCW started.
Hey, this is the dying days of WCW, and they're trying to. Everybody's gone. The NWO's gone.
Yeah.
They tried to put something together. It was the Billionaire Club, which is Ric Flair, Road Warrior Hawk, Lex Luger, Sting versus the Natural Born Thrillers, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, see, when WCW started going downhill, that's when I was like everybody else. I was jumping ship and moving on, So, all right, Randy, let's hear your number 9.
Ladies and gentlemen, the West Texas Rednecks. Also a late WCW. But how can you go wrong? Barry Windham, Kurt Hennig, Kendall Windham, Bobby Duncan Jr. with their hit song, Rap is Crap.
Oh my gosh. You're really reaching here, brother.
Hey, that was a great faction. And they had a long run. And it kind of started out, they were looking for Stan Hansen at one point. But
okay.
This was right when the Stalker had failed in the WWE and Barry Windham come back to the NWA. That's what they came up with. And Kurt Hennig was really the front man to this group, and he was hilarious. They made a video, and it was, they even were trying to play it on MTV. And it was, I got to find you a little bit of Rap is Crap. I don't think that the censors will turn us off for that one.
So
I'm looking for that, Jeremy. You want to go ahead and give your number 9, or you got to comment more about that?
So I want to ask a question here. So with that being said, would that be? Well, never mind. I'll go to my next one. So
Hold on.
So let's.
Jeremy, not only did you not do research, but Randy's also throwing pictures up.
I know, man. I'm going to lose this terribly. So I'm going to go ahead with my next pick because I'm running out. I'll have about 7. I'll be honest with you. And I'm going by remembrance. But I'm going to go with my next one, which is the Filthy Animals. So if you remember the Filthy Animals, do you guys remember the Filthy Animals?
On there,
Uh,
Rey Mysterio,
yep,
Billy Kidman. I
yep.
almost with the Latino World Order, but I thought that was too close to that.
All right, so Juventud Guerrera being in that part, uh, and actually even allowed, you had Disco Inferno kind of on the outskirts right there. So to me, if you think about this, and Rey Mysterio went into the Hall of Fame this past weekend, well deserved, by the way, and Conan introduced him as gave his accept, kind of introduced him to the Hall of Fame audience. So Eddie Guerrero, I think all 3 of us would agree, was probably one of the greatest workers of all time. Short-lived career. Rey Mysterio still going, man. The guy can still go. Again, he owned me when he took his belt off and whipped Dom at WrestleMania. That was the best piece of that match. So
When he took that belt off, I thought there's no way they're going to let him do that, and sure enough, he did.
he did. He did. It's fantastic. I thought that match, not to get on WrestleMania, I thought that was one of the more underrated, probably one of the better matches of the night. Those two put on a good show together. So I give you the Filthy Animals.
Well, I'm going to give you back Kurt Hennig's hit song.
Oh, here we go.
And it is Kurt Hennig singing.
Oh my gosh.
Rap is crap.
Too bad we couldn't have a sing-off between him and the Road Dogg.
Where we at? Number 8?
We are with number 8, which would be Jeremy. It would be Jeremy, but Jeremy's only got 7. So
Hey, wait, I got one right here for you. So I give you this. Kind of a AWA tag team, possibly. The Diamond Mine or the Diamond Exchange.
That was a good one.
Who is that? Tell me who that is. That's Diamond Dallas Page as the manager. You got the Diamond Stud, which is Scott Hall, and then you also got Pat Tanaka in there. You know what? I remember watching these guys. Who would have known Pat? Pat Tanaka was a great worker, but who would have known Scott Hall would have become what he was? And then in addition to that, Diamond Dallas Page started wrestling in his late 30s. Came in as a manager at 6'4". Who would have thought he would ever become what he was? So really underrated group right there when we talk about I think they went by the Diamond Mine or the Diamond Exchange.
I think they went by both at different points.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe one.
And you had Kimberly, the Diamond Doll.
Oh yeah, you can't forget that, Kimberly.
Quick question for both of y'all before we move on. You mentioned Diamond Dallas Page being the manager and all that. Has there ever been another manager turned wrestler that's been as good as Diamond Dallas Page?
No, absolutely not. No. Bobby Heenan, of course, was a wrestler, in his early years, and no greater manager than Bobby Heenan. But when you think about the fact that Diamond Dallas Page, he did it actually in reverse. He was a manager first, and then he skinny, tall guy, worked his butt off, outworked everybody. The fact that he achieved what he did as a wrestler is phenomenal, and he's still going right now. He's still Diamond Dallas Page. He's still wired up. He's still that person.
I go opposite of that. there's no greater wrestler turned manager than handsome Harley Race, who
I
led
agree.
Vader and Lex Luger to the
Yeah.
World Championship. So
And
forget
so when
there for the last part of WCW.
yeah. Yeah, he was a great manager for those guys. And I again, me being a little bit young, not watching wrestling when Harley was wrestling, but watching him as a manager. And for him, he was a great wrestler. I mean, a manager for Vader and for those guys. So yeah, I really enjoyed him as a wrestler. One tough son of a gun, right? I think we all agree. Harley Race.
All right, y'all ready for my next pick that y'all never heard of?
Number 8. Move on.
J-Tex Corporation.
Mm.
And if you don't remember this, they were brought to feud with. This is when Terry Funk dropped Ric Flair on his head, and it consisted of Gary Hart was the mouthpiece, the Magic Dragon, the Great Muta, Buzzsaw,
Mm.
Buzz Sawyer, and Terry Funk. And the J-Tex was the Japanese
Wow.
Texas Corporation. Look how badass they look in that.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and concede here that Randall is whipping my rear end tonight because that's a great faction that I never watched, but wow. And you think about that.
Hey, I love that. I love Terry Funk. Y'all know how I feel about Terry Funk.
You egg sucking dog.
Hey, I'm going to go though, Jeremy, because I didn't have room for him. How about the stud stable?
Oh, oh. Name those members right there, Randall.
Uh, well, it had been Colonel Rob Parker, who was really Robert Fuller. Bunkhouse Buck was Jimmy Golden. And then it was kind of a revolving door of Terry Funk and Dick Slater.
Yeah.
So
Which
that
either of those are a fantastic part of that stable.
I liked it when it was Dick Slater actually better.
Yeah.
All right. Let me get to I got to find my notes here because I actually made some because I want to get out of order. Number 7 is, I sent myself notes. That's scary.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, I'm telling you, I know I sent them.
You sure you sent that link to me, Randall?
I apologize.
Check your email, Jeremy. That might be what you can look and tell them what his notes are.
Number 7.
He sent me his notes, right?
Boom.
Oh.
Brutus the Barber Beefcake. John Tenta the Shark. Later on, if you look in the back, you can see that's Prince Iaukea, or Curtis Iaukea, that was like their mentor, who was a huge famous wrestler from Hawaii. If you look in the back, you can see there's a huge carving in that cave. About 6 months later, that carving comes out alive, and that's where the birth of Paul Wright, the Giant, is made into WCW
Mm,
as the son of Andre the
of
Giant.
Andre.
In
So let me.
Alabama at a Nitro.
Do what?
I think in Huntsville, Alabama at a Nitro.
It might have been. I wasn't there, but it Paul White pops out of that cave,
Because I
and
was there.
they called him the Giant, and there was a famous promo that Hulk Hogan was like smelling this shirt that the Giant had on, and he keeps going,
Hmm.
"I smell Andre." Stupidest thing
Yeah.
I've ever.
So let me ask you something right here, and I'm going to be more of a questioner than anything tonight. So do you think that hurt Paul White to be introduced as the son of Andre?
Early on, I think it did. I really, I had a hard time with that storyline. That in the storyline, and it got stupid Do y'all remember them getting on top of a building and having a monster truck pull off? It was just some of the dumbest for Hulk Hogan and the Giant. It was so dumb. But the Giant accomplished something that is, to me, will never be repeated and never happened before or after.
Yeah.
In his first professional match, he won the WCW World Heavyweight Championship from Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
And that Dungeon of Doom with Kevin Sullivan, real deal. And hey, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, been 9,000 characters. He came into Dungeon of Doom, eventually became the Zodiac, but originally was known as the Man with No Name because he had been so many different characters.
The man with no name. Hey, so let me ask you another question. So, Paul White, the Big Show, how would you classify his career?
The bust.
Go ahead, Howie.
Go ahead, Howard.
The bust. I just call it a bust.
Really? So
Because
why do you think that?
They used him too much week in
I
and
agree
week
with
out. He should have been an attraction like Andre.
Like Andre, exactly.
It wasn't enough. They should have been willing to send him other places like Japan and stuff.
Right.
Also, I love Paul White, but if y'all don't remember, Jim Cornette talks about it a lot. He got so big the WWE refused to use him.
Yeah. He did.
The Ohio Valley, not for like a month. It was like years, like a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And sent him back at 400 something pounds. Y'all go see Paul White when he first went to the WWF, whatever it was called. And he had the ponytail and the long hair and stuff. He looked like a 7-foot version of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
He did. No, I agree with that.
That guy didn't stick around because he would have been world champion about 30 times.
Yeah.
And I saw him clear the ropes in Huntsville at a WWE show, I think. He went chasing after someone, and he just grabbed the top ropes and jumped over the top rope and landed on the floor and took off running.
Hey, let me throw one more thing. He's doing it a little bit on AEW now, but I would have loved to see him after the Water Boy come out. Just turn him into Captain Insano for a couple of years.
Yes, I loved it. I would be all over that. I'd be buying the T-shirt. That was the best thing. But all jokes aside, WWE built him as the world's largest athlete. So you got to figure about Paul White. He was a basketball player. He was obviously he was a pretty good athlete. He had the same condition as Andre, which is acromegaly. Only difference is he actually had surgery to correct that, where Andre didn't.
Yeah, he did.
So I think some of it is his own fault, maybe because he wasn't in shape and he didn't, really have himself. But the other part was WWE's misuse of him. I mean, he swapped. He went from heel to babyface overnight all the time, and people get tired of that. So
he could do a lot of things that other big men couldn't do.
Yes,
but the problem was if you see it day in, like Jim Cornette says, if you see it day in and day out, how can you miss it if you don't go away?
That's right. That's right. He should have been an attraction, to your point. And you bring him in.
Same thing with WWE and Omos right now.
Yeah. So I think, and again, I'm talking a lot, but Omos right there, hey, look, that's a legit, you want that guy on your roster. So how do you use him correctly? Does he wrestle every week? No. Mm-hmm. Is his skill set limited? Yes. Was Andre's skill set limited? Yes, it was. You put him in the right places at the right times. WrestleMania being one of those things. I thought he did. I thought he did well against Brock Lesnar.
That's why Brock Lesnar and people like Brock Lesnar and Sting and Ric Flair, you did not see them week in and week out. They might come out and do an interview, But as far as wrestling, you didn't see them week in and week out. You saw them on big shows, special occasions, things like that. So
the dog was
they got with.
So I had to go throw the dog in the kennel. Sorry about that.
Throw the dog. Hey, wait, easy now. We don't want PETA getting involved. You place the dog in the kennel.
Look, he was over there having a snack out of the couch.
There we go.
All right, Jeremy, we're up to number 7 on yours.
Okay, so I'm going to throw one in here. And again, I've been working all week. I've been getting up at 3 a.m. And so, there's things coming to me now, maybe somewhat delirious. But I want to throw and I want to submit to you right now the Varsity Club.
Hey.
All right.
That's probably the one I left off the list that I hated the worst.
All right. So I hated them. I hated them also. But you got Kevin Sullivan, Mike Rotunda, Rick Steiner, and then you can throw in there Dr. Death, Steve Williams, the ones that I knew of the Varsity Club.
They'd wear those varsity jackets to the ring.
Right. Got that headgear on for Steiner.
Yeah.
So, to me, if you look at that lineup, and I think Rotunda's underrated, to be honest with you. He won a world title with Barry Windham, U.S. Express. That's his brother-in-law, by the way. And then in addition, played a part of Varsity Club. Later on in his career, played Erwin R. Shyster, IRS, with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And, of course, Kevin Sullivan still hanging around to this day. I think he was a great mind. People thought he was demonic. He just played a part, right? But these guys were pretty formidable. So that's my whatever number that is, guys. I'm sorry.
That's fine. And to make one more quick point, Rick Steiner was a really good individual wrestler. Everybody thinks of him as a tag team partner, but individually, he was a good individual wrestler.
Do you know?
So
I'm going to tell my one Rick Steiner story. They were a point where Flair was refusing to give up the world title.
Mm-hmm.
And the plan was not to do what the WWE did with the Montreal Screwjob. The plan was just to get Flair in the ring and send Rick Steiner down to beat him up. And that's how Rick Steiner was.
Yeah. And still a tough guy right now.
Yes.
Right? So
he's in trouble right now. Let's not talk about for what, but he's in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeremy, back to you as number 6 real quick.
Okay, so I'm going to throw another team in. I struggle with this one, to be quite honest with you. But I'm going to go with my next pick, the Fabulous Freebirds, Michael P.S.A.'s, Terry Gordy, Buddy Roberts. And, I know we had Jimmy Jam later on when it was just a tag team with Michael P.S.A.'s. But the three instituted what we call the Freebird rule. What greater faction? I know I don't have them as high as they should be, probably. What greater faction than the Fabulous Freebirds?
You said you struggled with this. What made you struggle with it?
I did because I had another team. And again, I based this off when I was watching. So that's why I struggled so much, because I watched more of the other team that I will mention later than I did this team, if that makes sense. But these guys, man, and Randall's talked about Terry Gordy at a young age, big guy, great worker, probably one of the more underrated workers there has ever been. Terry Gordy. I actually went to school with his cousin. I thought that was kind of cool. Rode the school bus with him. Of course, Michael Hayes. We all know about Michael. He's still contributing to WWE as a producer. And then, of course, Buddy Roberts. Probably left us earlier than he should have. Probably had more talent than was ever realized. But those three guys together, put them with the Von Erichs. That's some heat right there.
Randy, you're number 6.
Chatoa Nana. Hey, and that's the baddest group of Russians. I'm wanting to make sure I got it. Ivan, Nikita, Crusher Khrushchev, who would later become a member of Demolition, the Repo Man, and of course, nephew Nikita. I love
Yes.
that version of the Russians. And one of the versions that got over the Rock and Roll Express was beaten. That version of the Russians, Ivan
Yes.
and Crusher, on their first night in the NWA.
Yes.
All right, Randy, number 5.
Another one that's not really known about, but it's where the Legion of Doom comes from in the WWE. Back in Georgia, NWA days, the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, just babies, just brand new in the business. Precious Paul Ellering and Jake the Snake Roberts. And they hated Jake Roberts. Jake Roberts said they tormented him. The original version was a 4-man version with the masked spoiler, but he left somewhere else. But yeah, the Legion of Doom, that's where the Legion of Doom come from that they used in the WWE. The Road Warriors were separate from the Legion of Doom. The Legion of Doom was the faction in the NWA.
So let me ask you this: where would you rank Jake the Snake Roberts all time, Randall? You being the more
wrestler never to hold the World Heavyweight Championship, and I would rate him and Arn Anderson right there together as the greatest wrestler never to hold a World Championship.
Gosh, Howie.
Yeah, I thought he was really good. He had the gimmick with the snake and all that. That was my only downfall. I'm terrified of snakes, so
So look, I worked last week with a young guy. He's in his 20s. I was working with my brother on a construction job, and he had one of his guys. He started talking about, because I always throw in some kind of wrestling reference, and I go, "Oh yeah," or "Woo," or whatever. He came back during the week and said he had looked up the promo where the snake, the cobra bit the Macho Man, and they had talked about the interview where the Macho Man had said you gotta let it bite you first, and made him sit right in front of him so he didn't get an anti-venom or whatever. So this is a 20-something-year-old kid talking about Macho Man and Jake the Snake. Jake the Snake. Go ahead, Randall.
That cobra gnawed on him for like 20
Exactly.
minutes.
Yes, because Jake said he basically stirred him up and made him mad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jake the Snake, his promos, and I can remember as a kid when he first came to WWF, they felt so real. And he didn't yell, he didn't scream, but wow, they were so good.
It is that gravitas of his voice speaking
Yes.
it just went straight through you.
Yes. And even now, if you listen to him right now, the guy has a way when he speaks, unlike me, but his words carry a lot of weight. And so Jake the Snake, to me, I'm with Randall. He's probably the greatest wrestler of all time never to have a world title. I would agree with that.
And I love the way he talked and just monotone tone.
Yes.
Howie, I'm gonna be at your house, and you're gonna look in your closet, and I'm gonna be in that closet, and I'm gonna have this big snake with me.
Yeah.
So anybody listening, and you guys have already seen it, the A&E Legends thing on Jake the Snake, fantastic. Fantastic. If you've never watched it, if you've never watched the resurrection of Jake the Snake, you need to watch it. it's just a great story that he's able to come back from what he's been through.
All right, Jeremy, we'll go with your number 5.
All right, so look, Randall and I think a lot more alike than what you would anticipate. So at number 5,
I wouldn't have put that, but go ahead.
at number 5, or what I have is number 5. I don't even think it's my number 5. I'm all over the place tonight. I'm sorry. I've been on the road all week.
Y'all good.
I've got the Russians, which to me are the greatest faction of Russians, and that is Ivan Koloff, Nikita Koloff, and Crusher Khrushchev, who is, in fact, that none of them are Russians, but they were the greatest Russian faction there ever was. I can remember as a kid, those guys, I thought there's no way the Rock and Roll Express can even stay in the ring with these guys, right? You hoped that they would clash with another group that we will not name right now, because you wanted to see the other group get their tail whipped, and you believe the Russians were the one to do it. But Nikita, Ivan, Crusher, who had a long career, what was his last role? The Repo Man. I do believe in the WWF.
Hey, he was
But
overall in 17 as the Repo
he,
Man.
he was what?
He was in the gimmick Battle Royal and
Oh,
my worst matches as the Repo
wow.
Man.
I missed that one. So,
And imagine Nikita married a girl from Boaz, Alabama.
I know, right? Is that not crazy?
I didn't know.
Yeah, I actually heard that this week on Conrad Thompson on WHW with Tony Schiavone. I actually heard that. I did not realize that.
Apparently she used to go to all the matches in Atlanta at the studio tapings or
yeah.
whatever you called it, and they got together there.
So, side note for Nikita, a fantastic Christian man now, preaching the gospel. But he was back in that day when he was probably injecting himself with foreign substances. Very intimidating. No hair, bald. They got those eyes going. So that group, you were, as a kid, I felt like, man, those guys are scary. They could hurt you.
2 Minnesotans and a Canadian.
I know, right? But
I'll go with your number 4.
I can't go no higher with them, but they are the original faction. They are from Bad Street, USA. Jeremy's done had them, but look at those guys. The original.
Yes.
The original Buddy Jack Roberts, who was in the original Hollywood Blondes also. Michael P.S. Hayes and Terry Bam Bam. No other version. This is the Freebirds.
Yeah.
Right. I love Jimmy Garvin, but he's about a free bird, about like I am.
Sorry, hey Jimmy Garvin, if you happen to see this, we're sorry.
I would have them higher, but I don't think I can put them higher than the next 3 teams I'm about to talk about, because to me the next 3 teams factions I'm about to talk about are maybe, besides DX, greatest rap factions ever.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead and do your number 3.
Up in the corner, you'll see them. And in our video, you'll see them. I don't know how you can't love the Dangerous Alliance.
Oh, man, come on.
Bobby, Larry Zbyszko, Rick Rude, Arn Anderson, and Stone Cold, a future Stone Cold. Now, let me tell you what's unique about this. World Heavyweight Champions. Stone Cold held the WWE title. Rick Rude held the WCW International title. Larry Zbyszko was the last AWA champion. Tag champions. Arn Anderson was the WWF champion, the WC champion. Bobby Eaton was the WCW champion. Larry Zbyszko ended Bruno Sammartino's
Yes.
career. And on the mic, And this doesn't even show. They had a woman in it too. Medusa, maybe the greatest woman
Yes.
of all time. And
Yes.
like a very young Paul Heyman, aka Paul E. Dangerously. To me, it's the greatest, even more than the Horseman, which everybody knows I'm going to talk. More than the NWO, more than any faction, even DX that's assembled. This is the greatest assemblance of wrestling talent in one faction.
Whoa, that's a pretty strong statement.
Bobby Eaton, Arn Anderson, maybe the greatest workers of all time. Stone Cold Steve Austin, maybe the best talker of all time. Paul E, probably the best, maybe on the mic of all time. Larry Zbyszko, the legend killer. And we all forget how good Rick Rude was.
Yeah.
And was the original WCW champion when they put them together, the NWA and the WCW, and they called Rick the WCW International World Heavyweight Champion. God, are they? That's, to me, that's the one that nobody thinks about. And they headline multiple pay-per-views and award games and many war games.
So that faction, how long did that faction last, Randall?
2 years maybe max.
Not long enough, right?
Right.
I
No.
think that was my feeling. Is it had it stayed around, maybe in a different era, maybe a couple years before, whatever, we would be talking about it a lot more than what it's been talked. We're talking about it right now, obviously, but other people would be talking about it.
The only reason the next two are over the Dangerous Alliance is impact, longevity, and how they
Yeah.
shape the wrestling world. The Dangerous Alliance didn't shape the wrestling world. They were just a group of exceptional. I mean, look at this. Steve Austin is a baby. That's stunning, Steve Austin.
Stunning, Steve. Not Stone Cold.
No, stunning.
Stunning. There's a big difference.
Yep.
All right, Jeremy, you're number 3.
Well, look, I know you're not going to believe this. You're going to think I'm following along with Randall, but I have at my next pick is going to be the Dangerous Alliance, and we've already talked about it. That makes it easy. But I'm in agreement with Randall. I believe if this group was a little bit longer together, or if you move them back a few years, I think they're probably one of the groups that everyone remembers. If not, and they may be already for those wrestling fans. But I'm with Randall. When you think about Bobby Eaton, Arn Anderson, you think about Rick Rude, you think about Larry Zbyszko, and then you put Paul E. Dangerously, aka Paul Heyman, with that group. How could you not have a winner? How could you not have a group that people? Because I feel like here's what I feel like, and we'll both talk about this group probably in just a minute.
I'll go
We
ahead.
all
I was number 2 and number 1 is going to be exactly the same. But go ahead.
It is.
Yes, we'll talk about Ric Flair all day long, but I'm going to tell you something. Arn Anderson could cut one of the best promos you will ever hear in your entire life. And then I'm gonna go ahead and throw Tully in there too. But Arn, you got Rick Rude, and then my remembrance of Rick Rude is more WWF type, where he's got somebody's spray painted or airbrushed on his tights,
It was
and
Jake.
and he's telling the crowd to shut up while he took his robe off, and he done his little dance. But those guys. Gosh, I hate them just thinking about it.
All right.
So that means they're great heels.
Moving to number 2, I just want to make sure that I'm clear. And Jeremy, I think he will agree with me. When I give my number 2, and I think it's his number 2, it is not down the watered down version of it that had 97 members of it.
No.
Version of it. Scott Hall, Kevin
Yep.
Nash, Hulk Hogan, The original NWO. I think, Jeremy, that was the greatest group of NWO, and it got so.
Eh, yep, diluted.
Yeah. I started to put 6 up there with them, and I think it was still okay with 6.
Yeah.
X-Pac, because he made sense in the group. But I did not get, I think the Macho Man was next, and then the Giant, and then it just become.
I'm sorry, guys, but if Virgil made the NWO, then I can make the NWO.
Yes, I agree.
Nick Patrick and Virgil was all in the
Yeah.
NWO.
Yeah. I think the biggest mistake they made was adding more and more members. If you stay with Hogan, Hall, Nash, and maybe 6 in there, I think you're good.
And let the world take them on. Don't throw everybody else in with them.
No.
Dusty
Yeah.
Rhodes joined the NWO.
Yeah, I know. Right. It's Sting joined the NWO.
Yeah, but look here. How bad does that organization look there? As much as I hate Hogan, that might be, in my estimate, the best part of Hogan's career was
Yeah.
either he was first hitting the scene in the WWE and was blowing up, or after he turned and become Hollywood Hogan.
Yep.
And him and Scott Hall and Kevin Nash owned it.
Yep. That's all you need right there. I agree
Jeremy,
with that completely.
is it a safe assumption to say your number 2 is the same thing?
Yes, it is. Let's just carry on the conversation. I'm in complete agreement with Randall. I know, that we want some differing opinions, but I can't disagree with this because, you know, obviously I debated on whether to put them in my first spot
Yeah, me too.
versus my second spot, because you look at how hot they were and what that meant to wrestling at that time, and to this day, people are wearing NWO shirts, including myself. I've got one. I actually wore it last week on the podcast. Uh, what a profound effect on wrestling! It was a great angle. Of course, it was copied. It's a script, as the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun. So we just copy something else. It was a copy of a Japan angle. I think it was New Japan angle.
Yeah.
But however, it caught on like wildfire. You have the right people in the right places. So
And
NWO. Obviously, I was not watching wrestling at this time, but I am for 100% sure I would have hated these guys, and that's what it's what you needed them to do is get a reaction.
what I remember is Bass at the Beach was Macho Man, Luger, and Sting against Hall and Nash, and I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was going to be Macho Man turn against
Ah,
two, and then when Hogan came down, immediately Bobby Heenan started going. He's the third man, and the other two guys, I think it was Mike Tenay and maybe Tony Schiavone on the call,
Shivani.
and they were like, "You're a crazy brain. He's here. Get you some of that now." Into Hall and Nash, and about then Hogan backed up in the corner and dropped the big leg
Yes.
on the Macho Man, and everybody was like, "All I heard
So
is the trash that filled up the ring."
yes. So let me ask you this: is that the greatest heel turn in history?
That's the greatest heel turn, in my opinion, and the greatest face turn, if we're going to go there, and we'll get to that one day, is Nikita when he
Hmm.
joined Dusty in the Superpowers. So
Ah,
I'm going to say
interesting.
WCW or NWA done heel face turns a lot better than the WWE. But the
I
problem
agree with that.
is they do too many of them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Stone Cold's heel face turn would be the only one I could think of better.
Mm-hmm.
let me ask you this before we say what number one is. But um, the NWO, were they the biggest? I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Were they the best and the biggest at getting the crowd riled up compared to anybody else?
They were very good at it. There was more
Hmm.
trash WA than any other faction I ever seen. And I don't know. I know at one point when I worked for the WCW, if you saw somebody throw it to the ring, you put it immediately to a stop. But as much stuff was thrown at them, I don't know how you put it to a stop.
No.
I don't think there was no stopping it. And then when they saw it was going to happen, they just encouraged it to happen.
Right. That was
So
something that they took away from.
We lost your video, JJ.
sorry, man. I'm working on it right here. Sorry, guys.
Go
Can
ahead.
you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
That was something that ECW took away from the NWO, I think, was the throwing stuff into the ring.
I think so.
Yes. And did that not add to that heel turn, though?
Yeah.
It did. It made it profound. The fans definitely hated this.
But as much as, it's obvious who number one is, there was a debate with me also. Is it the NWA or is it the team that we're going to name, the faction we're going to name number one? And what it came down for is the number. It was always some version of that, and it didn't get silly. Now, there's some version of the Horseman that got silly too with Paul Roma and stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
It was silly, but this version, I'm gonna go ahead and show this version, and it's to me the best version ever. Arn Anderson, Barry Windham, Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, James J. Dillon. This was the Horseman and my favorite Horseman. Now,
Jeremy's moaning. Let's ask him. I think Jeremy disagree with the best one.
Yeah, slightly. And let me tell you why. Because I believe Go ahead. Let Randall finish, and then I'll get to mine. Cause
no, go ahead and do your best real quick.
so what my version my favorite version, and I guess this could come about because of when I was watching and everything. But to me, the best version was the original version that included, instead of Barry Windham, it was Ole Anderson.
that's my second version.
Now I agree with Randall. I've got them different because the second version is the one with Barry Windham, wearing the glove.
Yeah,
It
was the turn on Dusty that reason.
Yes.
Barry Windham turned on Dusty, and the whole world, hated him.
Yes.
Version. There's only 3 real versions to me. Once they got to Sid Vicious, it got a little crazy.
Yes.
Either Ole Anderson, Lex Luger, or Barry Windham. To me, that's the end of the Horseman.
I agree completely with that. Don't include Jeff Jarrett. I know he says he was a horseman, but he was not a horseman.
That was going to be my question: was Jeff Jarrett a horseman?
Was never a horseman.
I love the debate. I love hearing it. But Jeff Jarrett was never a horseman. The only horsemen are the ones we mentioned, and that's Barry, that's Ole, and then you throw JJ in the mix right there. And other than that, with Tully, Arn, and Rick, there's no other horseman.
What's funny is when they asked Rick about it, Rick may give the same. He'll give a different answer 5 minutes later.
I know. Look, I'm not going to lie. I'm a Ric Flair fan, right? But the more I listen to this guy talk, the less I like him at this point. Because to me, he is a complete egomaniac, which he always has been. We know it. But he tends to ruffle feathers every week, and The more he talks, the more I dislike him. I'm still a Ric Flair fan. Ric Flair 1986, yes. Ric Flair 2023, no.
Well, we have talked about this before. I'm sorry, Randy. Go ahead.
There comes a point where they just need to put the mic away from you.
Well, he's got a podcast, so I've either got to stop listening to it or just grin and bear it.
We've talked about this before, that the best wrestlers and the best promos are the ones that are actually them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's same with the actors and actresses. The ones that play in a part that's actually them, they do the best job.
That's right. And that's one thing that made Ric Flair the best and still does is that he's not playing a part. That's who he is. So it does make it better.
And in today's wrestling, that's going to make MJF the best. Oh, we lost Jeremy.
Yeah. I was going to tell the story about the Horsemen and how they came. The Horseman was never booked to be the Horseman. It was Arn Anderson live on a promo that called on, or Ole, one of the Andersons. They sent all the heels out with all the championships to do an interview, and they looked around. There's DX.
Sorry, guys. Again.
But
I'm on the road and I'm having technical difficulties, so my phone just went dead. I didn't have my charger. I didn't get the email, Randall, for the link, so I sent it to myself, and so here I am. I'm back.
But they were just sitting there, and all the heels went out to do a promo, and Arn Anderson called them the Four Horsemen.
Yes.
So, and that's how it came to exist. There's the DX. So, well, boys, this was a good one.
So listen. So I'm gonna add to this. That was the moment that I started really watching wrestling week in, week to week, and I can't. Wrestling is at its best when it stirs some type of emotion or feeling, in my opinion. And, that's hard to do nowadays. But I can distinctly remember how I felt when those guys came out together and Tony Schiavone is interviewing them and I listen to Arn Anderson. And again, that's my number one. That's Randall's number one. Because those guys were really good in the ring. They were really good on the mic, and it stirred something in me. I hated those guys, but I kind of wanted to be those guys in the same respect.
Do you all remember seeing the college age kids would come to the wrestling in their suits?
That's good.
I was one that did that. I sat ringside holding up. I would hold for. I love the Horsemen.
Yes.
And the greatest thing in person was the Midnight Express versus the Horsemen, Wyndham and Flair versus Bobby and Stan. It's still the best I've ever seen.
Oh, and I didn't see that match, but you name those names, I could tell you. I'm like, that's probably a freaking good match.
All right.
So, quick question about all your factions and everything. A lot of them has managers. Which one was your favorite manager? We will do a manager's top 10. Factions. Who was your favorite manager out of all your factions?
Currently, my 10 tonight would be Paul Heyman. Oh, no, let me take it back. JJ Dillon.
That's what I was about to say. If you go on Paul Heyman, and I'm still going the same. I mean, based on the folks we talked about that did have managers, I mean, I don't see any other choice but JJ Dillon. Now, had the Dangerous Alliance had a longer track record, you would probably put Paul Heyman in there. And if we look at him over the long term, obviously we put Paul Heyman before JJ Dillon. But for that period and for those factions, it's got to be JJ Dillon.
And they never was a version of the Heenan family in WCW. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's correct. And had there been, I think all three of us, maybe I know me and myself and Randall agree that Bobby Heenan was probably the greatest manager of all time.
Without a doubt.
And every time I hear Bobby Heenan's name or I say it, I think about him with the neck brace. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Randall.
Hey, I don't know.
But Paul, the worst thing that happened to Paul Heyman being part of the Dangerous Alliance was them giving him that cell phone, because you
Yeah.
can look at him now and realize he ordered a lot of pizza during that time.
Hey, so on a today note, and I know WrestleMania, we have detractors and stuff that feel like that Cody should have won. I disagree. I think they're right on track. I think you got to let him chase it a little bit longer. I think you go to SummerSlam, possibly. I think he feuds with Brock Lesnar in between. But I'm going to tell you, this bloodline thing with Paul Heyman is still the best thing going in wrestling right now as it stands, even after WrestleMania.
Does the Usos need to win their titles back? That's for another day.
I don't think they do.
Did y'all see Paul Heyman's reaction when Brock used the kit Monday night?
I loved it.
It was hilarious.
Hey, look, and I was when it comes to Roman Reigns, I talked to my work colleague, and we talk about wrestling sometime, and we all agreed a couple of years ago they were trying to jam Roman Reigns down our throat, and I got so sick of Superman punches and all that. But I'm going to tell you, he's the best that's going right now. His everything about him. The other night when they were gonna have that match the WrestleMania match when Cody got him in that arm bar and they broke it up because he got the ropes and he was like, and he done that like just little things like that. I'm like, man, this guy, he really gets it now.
When Brock F5'd Cody, watch Roman Reigns in the background tell the ring. It's hilarious.
Facial expressions, man. He really gets it with those facial expressions and what he does.
What Roman Reigns is right now is an attraction. He's not a wrestler. He's an attraction. And
I agree.
It goes back to what we talked about with Andre and Omos. They need to be attractions,
I agree.
Not be shoved down our throats every week.
So the best thing, and of course, what was it last year when they talked about Roman was going to do a limited schedule, not do house shows? That's probably the best thing that could happen to him as a person, personally, and from a physical standpoint and everything else, but also for his value, because you're not going to see him in house shows. You're going to see him on special occasions. You're going to see him on Raw or on SmackDown or whatever. But I couldn't stand him. I got so sick of him. Like, this guy, he's not got. I've completely changed. Everything about him, from the entrance, everything about it. It's to me, I'm in. I want him to get beat, but I'm in on him as a character. The guy, and I think he should go over 1,000 days as champion. And I think that's the reason they're holding up on that.
All right, D. Howie Cheney, why don't you pick up? We've made a decision on the direction of the show. We're going to go in some unique directions with some classic wrestling characters.
Oh, boy.
Howie, I was going to open the floor and let you pick the first of these classic lookbacks. You got anybody in mind you'd like to hear me and Jeremy talk about next week?
Well, let's just go ahead and go with Gordy, since both of y'all know people that knows him.
Yeah.
Hey, we might have to make this a 2-hour version of it, because when I get to talking Terry Gordy, I'll tell you, this is exactly how I feel.
For all you've done to your bodies. It's still real to me, damn it! I mean,
That owns me every time. I don't care. I don't care what you.
I thought you'd appreciate that being part
I
of
love
our.
it. I appreciate it so much.
Hey, one more. Hey, what the best part of it to me is
Funny
that
how
right.
for all you've done to your bodies, it's still real to me, damn it. I mean, funny how for all you've done.
When the lady reached over, patting him like
Yes.
off, man.
That's so good, man. That's one of the best things ever, right there.
And if you
Guys,
listen, I don't know who it is, but one of the wrestlers says, "Calm down."
So let me ask you a question. Did he trademark that slogan?
I don't know. Probably did. We might be banned,
we
but
may end up we may end up getting sued.
Funny how for all you've done to your bodies, it's still real to me, damn it. I mean,
so there's the 50 cents for him to sue us over.
guys, it's a great show tonight. Appreciate Wilburn's Waxing Solutions for being a sponsor.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Randy will get that thrown up there starting next week, hopefully, where we can get the number up there. And
I think I got it.
we'll throw it up real quick if you got it. Well, Randy's looking for that. Jeremy, got any closing comments?
I haven't uploaded.
Well,
My fault.
I mean, hey, I say enough, but of course, us three guys, we're just doing this for fun, and it's great to talk about wrestling. It's just fun to talk about, to reminisce. Randall brings a lot of history back. And I think, and it gets me thinking about. I feel like a kid when I'm talking about wrestling, and I hope anybody that's listening that tunes in to us, and Randall shared numbers with us, so hopefully a lot more folks are listening to us. Hopefully they feel the same way. They feel like a kid again, because I feel like I'm 12 years old or 10 years old, and it's just it was a good time in life for all of us guys that are older. So it's nice to get to do that and feel like you're 10 or 12 years old again.
And see, talking about this stuff here, the WCW back in the day, NWA, AWA, and all that. I didn't have cable growing up, so I couldn't.
I didn't either.
So I couldn't watch it. But thankfully for the Peacock, I can go back
Yeah,
and watch a lot of this stuff
absolutely.
and commercial free and all this other stuff. So it kind of flies by pretty quick. And with Shivani and especially the Podfather with Conrad,
Yeah,
what they do is bring those watch-alongs up, and I will
yeah,
watch along with it. Hey, there we go, our proud sponsor,
yeah. All right.
Wilburn's Waxing Solution. Give them a call. Free estimates, license insured. Great guys, been doing it for several years and trying to make it a full-time gig now, I reckon. So go by and see them. But yeah, just being able to go back and watch it on the Peacock's been great for me, being able to
Yeah.
watch all this stuff.
So the wonder of modern technology, man. I mean, years ago we'd have to be looking up VCR tapes and things of that nature,
We
and
would be the tape traders of the 2023.
yeah, and it's so cool to get on the Peacock Network and to go back and just pick the season and pick whenever you want to watch and
Yeah.
watch World Championship Wrestling from 1989, or watch a pay-per-view, or watch even earlier, with the syndicated program at 6:05 every evening.
Yeah.
I it's just I don't even know how to explain it, but it just makes me feel like a kid again. And I think, especially when you start getting our age, anything we can do to feel like a kid again, that's a plus, right?
See, I couldn't pick up TBS and all that, so I couldn't
Yeah,
watch. But what I could watch was the WWE or WWF at the time, but the
yeah.
WWE Saturday mornings. And
Hmm.
when I hear that Saturday night's main event theme song come on,
Oh yeah,
it still gives me chills because
it does.
here I am, an 8, 9-year-old kid, staying up late on Saturday night to watch it.
Howie, you and I are in the same boat. I can remember falling asleep during the nightly news and kind of waking back up because it came on immediately after. Gosh, the other day I was looking through my playlist on YouTube Music, and I'm like, man, that Hulk Hogan theme song, man, by Rick Derringer, that is freaking awesome. And I plugged that thing in, and I felt like I was watching Hulk Hogan go to the ring, Real American. So, it's just good with all the junk that's going on in society, and we can look around. It doesn't take a genius to figure out there's a lot of things that are not going well. It's nice to kind of escape and just kind of reminisce, really is.
And if you look up in the corner now, the official sponsor of our show, you can see in the right hand corner our logo for Wilburn's Rat Waxing Solution. Will be there every week. There, up in the corner, the real and the sponsor of. I gotta play it one more time.
How for all you've done to your bodies. It's still real to me, damn it!
The official sponsor of It's Still Real to Me is
this guy right here. He dies laughing every time he sees it.
I love it. I love it. I've loved it. Every time I see it, I'm gonna laugh. It's so good.
You're with that like I am with Titus O'Neil running down to the ring and Pop slides up. Randy, he calls me that day. 10 minutes after I watched it, and I'm laughing so hard. He's like, "Dude, just you get done laughing."
Hey, so on that Mark, that's had to be one of the most embarrassing moments. But Titus, to his credit, man, he's hung in there. He's an ambassador.
Yeah.
And, they had him on commentary during WrestleMania. And look, he's unorthodox, but I loved it. I thought it was great. Yeah. So credit to Titus O'Neil, even though we laugh at him every time we watch that.
next week right here on River City, and I might even set up for that. Terry, Bam Gordy. And you know what? I may have a special guest on with us too.
Woo.
So let me see if and if we do, we'll have a special guest next week who has, just a hint, has wrestled Terry Bam Gordy.
Oh, I'm excited.
So I will check with him tomorrow and see if we can get him on here.
That's fantastic.
All right, guys. Let's wrap her up for the night. Be safe coming home, JJ. I guess that's tomorrow.
Yes.
Howie Cheney, I'll talk to you later. And for everybody that watches us, support these guys. They're stepping out of their way to help us out and pay for some equipment and some time. Please, please do your part. Keep this entertainment is free. Support our sponsors, please. We need you to. For Randall Cunningham, good night. God bless, and we'll catch you down the road.